Hello everyone. Today we are going to see about audiogram or pure tone audiometry. First of all, what is an audiogram? It's a graph or chart that displays the results of your hearing test. How to perform audiogram? A pure tone test measures the quietest sound you can hear at different pitches. It involves using an audiometer, which is a machine that plays sounds via headphones. Your audiologist or an assistant will play a variety of sounds such as tones and speech at different intervals into one ear at a time to determine your range of hearing. The audiologist will give you instructions for each sound. Most likely, they will ask you to raise your hand when a sound becomes audible. Likewise, the air conduction is tested. The bone vibrators are placed over the mastoid of the testing ear of the subject. Likewise, the bone conduction is tested. Response of the subject is plotted on the graph. This test is performed in a silent room. This test is a subjective test, that is, it requires patient cooperation. Now, in an audiogram, we are testing speech frequencies like 500, 1000 and 2000 Hz and a few frequencies below it and a few frequencies above it. Now let us see how to read an audiogram. First thing to be noted is which ear is this audiogram denotes. Right or left or both. To find this, one should know the symbols on the audiogram. Symbols on the audiogram. Before knowing the symbols on the audiogram, one must know what is an unmasked ear and what is a masked ear. Difference between masked and unmasked ear. Usually when you give a sound on one side of the ear, this sound on reaching the other ear, there is 40 decibels loss. For example, if you give 50 decibels sound on one side, it reaches the other ear as a sound of only 10 decibels. But say if there is a case where the right ear has 50 decibels hearing loss and we give a sound of 50 decibels to right ear and the person will not hear the sound from right ear, but he will be able to hear the sound from left ear but is 10 decibels. So the result will not be accurate. That's why while testing a particular ear, the other ear is masked or blocked by either white noise, narrowband noise or complex noise. Now let us see the symbols on the audiogram. Air conduction unmasked, air conduction masked, bone conduction unmasked and bone conduction masked. I have some simple mnemonic to remember this audiogram. Let us see. So look at the left ear. There is a cross symbol. Remember, wrong cannot be right. So the cross symbol is for only left ear, air conduction unmasked. So for right ear, there is a round symbol. Remember, R for round. So for right ear, it is a round symbol for air conduction unmasked. For air conduction masked, look at the left ear. The cross symbol can be rearranged into a square. So likewise, you can remember the square symbol for air conduction masked. And for a right ear, it's going to be a triangle. Bone conduction unmasked and bone conduction masked. This is little simple to remember. For bone conduction unmasked, you should remember arrow symbol, and bone conduction masked, and you should remember a bracket symbol. For both the things, one common thing is arrow and bracket should open towards right for right ear, whereas it should open towards left for left ear. So likewise, you can remember this symbol. Now let us see the grades of hearing loss. There are two types of grading. They are WHO and ASHA. ASHA is nothing but American Speech and Hearing Association. ASHA classification is the most commonly followed grading system. Let us see the grading. 0 to 25 decibels loss is a normal hearing loss, right? To remember other grading, one should add 15 decibels, 15 decibels so that you can remember. See, first of all, 0 to 25 decibels is a normal hearing. 25 to 26 to 40 decibels is a mild hearing loss. 41 to 55 is a moderate hearing loss. 56 to 70 is a moderately severe hearing loss, and to 70 here we are adding 20 decibels. So 71 to 90 decibels is a severe hearing loss, and more than 91 decibels is a profound hearing loss. Now let us see the WHO grading. In case of WHO grading also, 0 to 25 decibels is the normal hearing, but here we are adding 20 decibels. Say 26 to 40 decibels is slight or mild hearing loss, 41 to 60 decibels is a moderate hearing loss, 61 to 80 decibels is a severe hearing loss, and over 81 decibels is a profound hearing loss. One important thing one should know is bone conduction and air conduction, what it denotes. So bone conduction, it denotes the sensorineural pathway, whereas the air conduction denotes both sensorineural and conductive pathway. Now let us interpret this graph. Look at this graph. I want you to know one thing. In an audiogram, always the right ear is represented by red color, whereas the left ear is represented by blue color. Look at the graph here. So here there is a red color curve. So we all know that it's for right ear. There is a round symbol. So it denotes air conduction of right ear, and the cross symbol denotes the air conduction of left ear. So both these curves are within normal limits. So both the air conduction of right and left ear are normal. So you know one thing, like air conduction denotes both sensorineural as well as conductive pathway. So when this becomes normal, we don't need a bone conduction curve, because it is again going to denote only the sensorineural pathway, which we already know is a normal. So this is a normal audiogram of both ears. Look at this graph. Here both air conduction and bone conduction of right ear and air conduction bone conduction of left ear is given. On same graph, we are noting one thing, that is the bone conduction of right ear is normal, whereas the air conduction of right ear is abnormal. There is hearing loss. Okay, so bone conduction denotes sensorineural pathway. So sensorineural pathway is normal, but air conduction, there is a defect. So it indicates conductive hearing loss of right ear. So same thing with left ear also. So we can easily find whether a graph is a conductive hearing loss or a sensorineural hearing loss. That is, you have to note the air-bone gap. Air-bone gap is nothing but the difference between the air conduction and bone conduction of a ear. It should be more than 15 decibels. If it is more than 15 decibels, then it denotes the conductive hearing loss. Whereas if there is no AB gap or less than 15 decibels, then it denotes sensorineural hearing loss. Now look at this graph. Here the air conduction of left ear and air conduction of right ear is given. First of all, let us see the air conduction of left ear. It is within the normal limits, so air conduction is normal. So if the air conduction is normal, obviously left ear there is no defect, left ear is normal. Look at the right ear. Here the air conduction, there is a mild hearing loss. So bone conduction of right ear is not given. So to conclude whether it is a conductive hearing loss or sensorineural hearing loss, you should know one thing. If in a graph or if in an audiogram, only the air conduction is given and there is a defect in the air conduction and the bone conduction is not given, one should assume that the bone conduction is normal, because only when the bone conduction is normal, an audiologist will go for the air conduction alone, right? So here assume the bone conduction of right ear is normal. So if the bone conduction of the right ear is normal, then obviously there is no defect in the sensorineural pathway. but there is a defect in air conduction of right ear. So obviously it's going to be conductive hearing loss of right ear. That is the interpretation of this graph. Look at this graph. Here there is a bone conduction curve of right ear, and there is a air conduction graph of left ear, right? So bone conduction is within the normal limits, only that part. But look here. So here air conduction of left ear is given. So there is a hearing loss. But the bone conduction of left ear is not given. So we have to assume bone conduction of left ear is normal, and obviously it's going to be conductive hearing loss of left ear. Conductive hearing loss is seen in diseases like otosclerosis, serous otitis media. Now look at this graph. Here, bone conduction of the left ear and air conduction of the left ear is given. Look at the graph. The air-bone gap is not more than 15 decibels. So obviously it is not going to be conductive hearing loss. This is a graph of sensorineural hearing loss, right? So here initially the at low frequencies there is only mild hearing loss, or at low frequencies bone conduction curve is normal. But as the frequency increases, this hearing loss becomes severe. So it is noted that the hearing loss is obvious or severe or in case of only high frequencies. So this is a high frequency sensorineural hearing loss. You can easily rule out a high frequency sensorineural hearing loss by seeing the graph shape of the graph alone. Look here it is in down sloping audiogram. So it starts from above and slopes downwards. So this type of audiogram indicates a high frequency sensorineural hearing loss. So a sensorineural hearing loss in high frequency shows down sloping audiogram, and it is seen in presbycusis, age related hearing loss, noise trauma, noise induced hearing loss, ototoxicity. When you take drugs like kanamycin, amikacin, and neomycin, you will be noting high frequency hearing loss. Now look at this audiogram. Here both the air conduction and bone conduction of right ear and air conduction and bone conduction of left ear is given. So let us see the right ear. Right ear, everything is normal within 25 decibels. But look at the left ear. In left ear, both bone conduction and air conduction, they are normal at high frequencies, but they show mild hearing loss in case of low frequencies. So this kind of audiogram is called low frequency sensorineural hearing loss, right? And also I should say one thing, there is no AB gap, so it is a sensorineural hearing loss, and we see hearing loss only in case of low frequency, so it's a low frequency sensorineural hearing loss, right? Or on seeing a graph itself, you can say whether it's a low frequency sensorineural hearing loss or not. Say on seeing the AB gap, you can rule out the conductive hearing loss, and then on seeing the shape of the graph, say here it looks like a upsloping audiogram. That is, it starts from down and the graph goes upwards. So this is the upsloping audiogram. So upsloping audiogram is seen in case of sensorineural hearing loss in low frequencies. So this kind of audiogram is seen in Meniere's disease, where only the low frequencies are affected. Remember one thing, Meniere's disease is usually unilateral sensorineural hearing loss. In this audiogram also, only the left ear is affected, not the right ear. It's a unilateral sensorineural hearing loss. So it's a Meniere's disease. Now, we have seen both high frequency sensorineural hearing loss and low frequency sensorineural hearing loss. There is another type of sensorineural hearing loss where you'll be noting defect only in the mid frequency range, like your speech frequencies 500,000 and 2000 hertz. So now look at this audiogram. Here you're seeing uh, both bone conduction and air conduction of right ear and air conduction of left ear. Okay. In case of air conduction of left ear, there is a defect only in 500,000, 2000 hertz. Other things are normal, but the bone conduction of left ear is not given. So assume that it is normal. So it's going to be conductive hearing loss for left ear. But in case of right ear, there is no AB gap between the bone conduction and air conduction. So it's going to be sensorineural hearing loss. But see, both in case of low frequencies and in high frequencies, there is no hearing loss at all. But in case of 500,000 and 2000 frequencies, that is mid frequencies, it shows mild hearing loss. So this kind of hearing loss is called mid frequency hearing loss. So look at the shape of the audiogram. It looks like a U-shaped audiogram or a cookie bite shaped audiogram. So cookie bite in the sense, if you bite a cookie, you'll get a shape. So the audiogram looks like that. So it's cookie bite audiogram or a trough shaped audiogram. Okay, this is seen in sensorineural hearing loss in mid frequency, and it is seen in congenital sensorineural hearing loss. Now we are going to see a special kind of audiogram. Look at the audiogram. Here both the bone conduction and air conduction of both the ears is given, right? So in case of both the ears, there is no AB gap. So definitely it's going to be sensorineural hearing loss, right? But except 4000 hertz, all other frequencies are normal. There is no hearing loss, or the hearing loss is within normal limits, right? Whereas in 4000 hertz, it shows a mild hearing loss. Okay, so there is a dip at 4000 hertz. So in case of a sensorineural hearing loss only, so I'm saying it only for sensorineural hearing loss, if there is a dip at 4K or 4000, then it denotes noise induced hearing loss. Already we have seen noise induced hearing loss shows downsloping audiogram or high frequency sensorineural hearing loss. But this dip at 4K or 4000 hertz, no, it is the first change noted in noise induced hearing loss, because 4000 hertz is the first frequency to be affected in case of noise induced hearing loss. And later on it changes to downsloping audiogram when the other frequencies get affected. Now let us see another type of audiogram. See here. Here you're seeing the bone conduction and air conduction of the left ear, where the air bone gap is more than 150 decibels. So it's going to be conductive hearing loss. See, look at the audiogram. Bone conduction is within the normal limits except 2K hertz. Okay, so there is a mild defect or a dip at 2K hertz. All other frequencies are normal. So in the audiogram showing conductive hearing loss, if there is a defect at 2K alone, okay, then it indicates fixation of foot plate of stapes, right? So this dip at 2000 hertz in bone conduction is called Kahat's notch. Okay, so why it denotes the fixation of foot plate of stapes? Because the frequency of foot plate is 2000 hertz. So when there is a fixation of foot plate of stapes, 2000 hertz is affected first. So that's why this dip is seen, and this condition is seen in otosclerosis. Now let us see how to read an audiogram, short and sweet. First step to be noted is which ear, right, left or both. Next thing, whether it is within normal limits or not, that is within 25 decibels. Next thing to be noted is AB gap, that is airborne gap. It is present or not to rule out the conductive hearing loss. If it is not seen, then it is sensorineural hearing loss. In case of a sensorineural hearing loss, look at the slope, whether it is upsloping or downsloping or U-shaped. That's the thing to be noted. Now let us solve some questions. In case of Pearson audiometry, which of the following is not true? U-shaped audiogram is seen in mid-frequency hearing loss. Yes, it is seen in mid-frequency hearing loss. Downsloping audiogram or downhill audiogram is seen in presbycusis. Yes, high-frequency sensorineural hearing loss is seen in presbycusis. Upward sloping audiogram or uphill audiogram is a feature of noise trauma. No. In case of noise trauma, either you will note a dip at 4K or a high frequency sensorineural hearing loss. Upward sloping audiogram is a low frequency sensorineural hearing loss. It can be seen only in Meniere's disease. So this is wrong. High frequency audiometry is done in ototoxicity. Yes. In case of ototoxicity, the first frequencies to be affected are the high frequencies, say from 8,000 to 20,000 hertz. So we'll be going for only high frequency audiometry. So in this question, the thing which is not true is upward sloping audiogram or uphill audiogram is a feature of noise trauma. True about Pearson audiometry. Air conduction for right ear is represented on audiogram by symbol cross. No, it's represented by round symbol, it's not cross symbol. Air conduction for left ear is represented on audiogram by symbol O. No, here it is represented by X, not O. Now, frequency tested is 2000 to 9000 hertz. No, we are specially testing the speech frequencies. So, there should be 500,000, 2000 hertz. Here, 500 and 1000 is not given. So, this is wrong. Done in silent room. Yes, it should be done in silent room. So, this is the correct answer. Thank you, everyone.